Wednesday, November 16th. This is a pre-opening SPY report. There's about 2 hours to go before trading, so I thought I'd make an earlier video here. At the moment, just in terms of the daily chart here, I don't have much conviction about what necessarily happens today. In terms of the trend, short-term trend, you can clearly see it's up, but we haven't had, we're consolidating, as I'll show you in a second here, for 3 days. So I know we're doing that. So the question is it still, are we ready to break out to the upside and continue the trend, or does this consolidation have to fail a little bit more to the downside before it starts higher? Kind of like in this area here where we came up to the top, we had kind of a broadening red bar. This one closed strongly red when we broadened out, relative to this little bar before it, and we did pull back a little bit before we moved higher. This bar broadened a little bit, but then we kind of moved up towards the end of the day. So it's not as clear that we're going to necessarily continue lower into this gap area down here before heading higher, but it's certainly possible because I see a lot of stocks that are, if they can go 2 down today, are prepared to go lower. So I don't know for sure. Now, in terms of the pre-market activity, I'm seeing after yesterday's, we dropped a little bit. And you can see here what's happening in the last few days. Every time we come down, buying comes in, down, buying comes in, down, buying comes in, take out the stops, buying comes in, take out the stops, buying comes in. So if we're going to break lower here, and I'll show you why I drew these blue lines in a second. I could technically put it here, but I put it over here for now. And I'll show you on the hourly chart what's setting up there. But anyway, if we do come down and break out and have a red bar, you have to be aware that this is an area where we're just taking out stops and can fail and head higher within this overall range. And that's why it's a little tricky. So any trade, if we're going to get, and here's the upper blue line, obviously at the moment, we try to move up a little bit overnight, and now we're drifting a little lower. So any breakout here, you really also want to see continuation, because we are selling off from those highs. At least we did this one day here. So that's the thing at this point. When you have these blue lines inside the big trading range, you can take trades. Let's say it occurs in the middle, like a green bar to start, and then the second bar goes up. Well, take that trade and then see if it breaks out from here. If not, break even. Same thing on the downside. Red trade, take it, but know that you got to be you keep your stops very tight in case you don't get the follow through. Good trades could always be when you come down and then fail and then start the other direction. So the ideal thing, I guess, would be to start down, fail, and then eventually move up in line with the bigger trend, which seems to be moving. We've talked about how we're heading up higher. In the bigger picture, if I turn this to the weekly chart again, I still think, after this green-red bar, a big green bar, we're consolidating here, heading up towards this area, and on the monthly chart, we're moving up on a 2-up month towards these targets as well. So, that's still the bias, but in terms of what happens today, we're just going to have to kind of play within this range and judge that accordingly. In terms of what I saw on the hourly, I just threw up an hourly chart, and I see this typical reversal kind of signal developing yesterday where we came down big, had the inside bar here. We try to, we moved up to the upside, and then if we come down here, that's kind of a typical strat signal to go short here with the move towards the bottom of the range. So this, 1 failure on the 1 to the upside, and then if we can get a 2 down here on the hourly chart, which would be the open of trading, that's why I drew the blue line here, we could be heading down to test that low again, and then at that point again play that trade, but know that either we're going to fail here or continue here lower. And if we continue lower, you can see it turns the monthly chart red temporarily. So it is possible, to head lower. And this pivot machine gun here, there's a gap down here. So we'll just have to see if the market wants to do that. A lot of stocks, like I said, some stocks are poised to move lower, but others are not. The retail stocks are gapping lower. Stocks like Tesla and Nvidia seem to, have reached a peak and want to pull back a little bit. So I'll certainly go short if we get kind of a signal here. But again, we have to break out of this bigger picture range if you spread out the last few days. So let's see what happens. Tough day to really judge, but we'll let price action kind of lead the way.